Okay, this is going to be BISS 4403 Part 2. And the other evening, boy, did we have fun working through the immediate if function. I will not for the life of me understand what that was all about. Nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish up Chapter 18, and that's going to be an introduction to subqueries. And we'll open this up, and it's back over here to Chapter 18. And I'll throw a copy of it out there on the desktop. Then we'll use the, here in the Patrick materials, we also have the SQL fund, so I'm going to copy it and paste it. Okay. And here it is. We're going to call this, we're going to rename it SQL Fund 2007 CH18 Part 2. Okay. And so we're going to be working with subqueries. And this will conclude all of the chapters. I'll go ahead and enable the content. And we're going to be over on page 701. And there at the bottom of 701, we're given a task, and this is where to show an example of a subquery, we're supposed to list the foods that cost less than the average price of all of the items on the menu. And we want to list the descriptions and prices of those foods. We want to sort the rows in ascending order on the description column. Okay, and he's going to give us this first bit of code here in the bottom, and it's going to be 1812. And here we go. Find it here in just a second. There's 1806. We had some fun yesterday. It's almost about as excruciating as it gets. All right. Now let's talk about what we're going to do here, okay? We're going to select the description of the price, and we are using Table A, which we'll identify here in a minute. From foods, so we identify foods is Table A, where the price is less than, and here's the subquery. You'll see within this parentheses, we're going to select the average, and we're going to take B.price from foods B. So we're using pseudonyms or table aliases on the same table, and then we're going to order them by description. Okay, so we're going to take wherever the price is less than the average price, we're going to select that and order that by description. So let's copy that, and let's go ahead and throw it in SQL. And we'll go ahead and click Create. And the query design, away we go. Now, we'll be ready to run this. And here's the results set that we've got. And let's take a look at this. This is at the bottom, page 701, we had the code that we've just used. He does give us a He does give us a nice explanation about why we use subqueries over there in pages 701 and 702. Okay. And as he mentions, it's not used, although I agree with him. I like it. I think it's much more straightforward. And so you'll see the beginning table, that's the foods table. And then he shows us how the computer processes the query, and it gets this first step, which is the average price. Okay, and then we place that in the outer query as he mentions there, and we get our descriptions. And basically what we're saying, we'll go back here, page 701, is we're going to say we're going to look at the price, we're going to look at description, we're going to look at price, and we're going to use the table alias A, and then we're going to have a conditional statement where price, and this time we're going to use a subquery, and he has that subquery essentially highlighted for you at the bottom of 701, where it's less than the average price, and we use the table alias again. This time it's table alias, we call it B, and then we order it by description. There we are. So we get everything that's below the average price. And I'll leave it to you to take a look at his discussion about subqueries and why folks have kind of quit using them. And he's going to walk us through the garden variety of those. So this is going to be 1812, and we'll save it as such. Okay. Now I'll go back down, and let's look at it in the design view, because we'll get it. And notice what's going on. We're going to get the description from the price, okay, for table A. And then we're going to sort the descriptions in ascending order, and you'll see in this second here on this criterion, and we're going to select anything that is less than the average of B price. So we use that column alias, table alias. Okay. But I wanted to show you this so that you understood we were working with one table. And then we have an alias, two aliases for that table. This is one of the things about, again, relational databases that make them so powerful is we can harvest the same types of data out of that. Now you say, well, why wouldn't I just take that and throw it over into Excel or something like that, and just run the average price, or use a conditional statement. If it's below the average price, then you could identify it. You could put in some literals, that type of thing. Sure. Okay, we're going to look over at these subqueries. They talk about them. Subqueries that and we'll close this off. And these are going to be subqueries that give us a list of values, and he's got that over there in our text file. Okay, let's take a look at it and note what's going on. Okay. Now I'm going to select number _2 and word _2. These are two fields from the twos table where the number where the number _2, and I'm going to search for I'm going to select that number from the threes. Okay. And I'm going to use the N function. So we're going to do a search and find a list of those values. Now he gives us this little notation for number 1, and we list them. And that's all we're going to do. And so we're going to copy this, and then we'll run it, and then we'll take a look at the beginning and the ending tables and talk about it. Now, the whole point of all of these is, again, for you to I think just working with these sharpens your mental acuity in the first place. So it's some good critical thinking skills, but it's also useful for you in the sense that you start to understand that, and this is going to be 1813, you could start to understand how with a structured query language, we can take a table and make it a highly productive data set. We can compare it against itself. And here we just generate a list. We have a list of the number and then the corresponding word. And we get that result set. But the whole point is he wants us to see the subquery, okay? And we use the in condition. And that in condition, as you remember, it's, as he mentions here in the text, it's in or not in. And we have the beginning table, twos table, and the threes table, and there's our result set. And what he tells us is that the result of the subquery is the same as an inner join. Now, I want to stop for just a second and say this. This is one of these workarounds, I think, that when you have a set of tables where you don't have referential integrity, but you want to do an inner join, you can do that. And that's what he's gotten accomplished there. Now, over on page 705, he uses the not in condition. And again, we're running subqueries. So we have 1812 there. Let's just go ahead and we'll look at 1814. Okay. And that's we're gonna use the not in condition. And here's the deal. We're going to select number 2 and word 2 from the twos table, where the number 2 is not in. And here's the subquery. I'm going to select the number 3 from the threes table, where the number 3 is not null. Now you say, well, okay. If you take a look up at the threes table, you're going to see a couple of null values there. So we're going to exclude them from the analysis, and we're going to get our result table. So we'll go ahead and copy this, and then we're going to run the query. And you can see that we've got the result tables here, the 2, the 4, the 8, the 10, the 14, the 16, and the 20. And here again, we've created a list. In this case, it was we list them if they meet the condition, and that subquery also says if they're not null. As I said before, he's going to walk us through a garden variety, and that's going to be, I'm going to call this one, let's call this, I'm going to call this 1813A. And then we're going to look at 1814. Okay. And here we're just going to use the subquery, and he's showing us we set up the subquery using the equivalency. So he's walked us through greater than, in, we're not in, and now we're just simply doing a straight equivalency. And we're going to select number 2 and then word 2 from the twos table. And then we've got number 2 where it equals this. We're going to select the maximum of the number underscore 3 column from the threes table. So we're looking for the maximum in that threes table where it matches up with the number 2. Okay. And again, we're going to generate a list. And in order to keep this simple for us, the author doesn't give us too many real world problems. Okay. And if you look over on page 706, you're going to see this is going to be 1814. And we end up with a single value. So we've used this to create lists. We've done that. We've used subqueries to eliminate null data from our records, from our result sets. And here we've done it to get a single value. And we use the equal condition to get that accomplished. Okay. And let's look down here at the design view, and you'll see again how efficient this is. We've got the number column, or we call it the number column, we call it the word column, both of them in the twos table. Then we get the number 2 in the twos table. We have that inside of brackets because we're creating that. And then we select the maximum from the number 3. So you'll see we have the twos table, but there is no number 3's table there mentioned. We use it, okay, but we're just taking a quick view from it. And the author walks us through that process. He gives us some things like avoid using not in with nulls. He gives us a correction for dealing with that. That's going to be 1815. And so we'll go down here and take a look at that. And again, what triggers our recognition of a subquery is pretty simple. All right. It's when I've got some kind of a conditional statement. Usually it starts with where. I mean, almost all of them do. Where. And then we have a criterion, the logical criterion in this point, in this bit of Boolean logic, it's number underscore 2. And it can't be found in the number 3. And we make sure that we exclude any null data. And this is going to be our 1815. And again, we'll create a query. And there's the result table. And let's look again at this is going to be 1815. And when we go look at the design view, we're going to see the twos table, but we don't see the threes. You see the same pattern. Over 1916, page 17, up to this point, he's tortured us with these kind of flaky looking queries. But then the author kind of turns the tables on us and he says, hey, there's some practical application, okay? And let's talk about that for just a moment. In the middle of page 17, the first one he talks about, and I think the author's dead on, when he says that we use subqueries as a means to create an update command. Now I want you to take a look for a moment, okay? And let's see, we have this beginning table. If you look at the bottom of page 710, you're going to see this table. Okay? These are beginning tables that need to be updated. Okay? And I need to update them. You with me? And what I'm going to do, okay, is here at the bottom of page 711, excuse me, he gives us the correct code. I'm going to update 1816B underscore employees, and I've said okay. I identify the table alias up front, and then I say set A or the manager ID, and here's where I use the subquery. I select the new manager from the changes B table, where the employee ID in A equals basically the employee ID in B. And then I use the employee ID and I search for any case in the C table, and I've identified that table. And we get the result set. And the authors point out to us that we've made changes only to the desired row. Well, let's run this query. This would be 1816. So let's look here for 1816 is going to give us the correct code. Okay, and notice we're going to use the update query. And I'm going to show you something here in a second. So let's create design wizard. Now, I'm going to run the query. And let's see, I want to use this. Well, all right, he says this is correct. Oh, here we go again. 1816B employees. A. And we get this manager, and we get this output. And I want to look at over here and find it and see where we find that result table. When we get the manager IDs. Here it is at the top. No, those are. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. He saves us some, he gives us a result table. And the changes are only made for those employees who had the manager ID 203, 201, 203. That's strange. Let's go back and take a look at this for just a second. And the employees, B, employees A, had a lot of this weirdness. And I'm looking at this. And this is really strange. We're not getting the result set that we should have. Now, as he shows us there in the text, and well, here we go again. We have two subqueries, all right? And the second subquery is to specify which rows we're supposed to change. And so we don't get that result set. That's odd. I'm not sure how some of this breaks down with him. And I'm going to close that and not save it. I don't want to run it again. We've run into a slug of these. And let's make sure. Now, you'll notice a minute ago when I went to execute this, the query wouldn't run, but it would give me a view, which is an odd thing and shouldn't happen. We're going to click this and must use an updatable query. Well, maybe we had already run that. Let's see if we've got an 1816 B. We may have to have created that earlier. Now let's take a look. Sometimes I'll work through these and they will have generated a query and operated on it 2 or 3 times. Then we come along and we look at it, we're getting some of this glitchy stuff. All right, we've got 1816 B employees, 1816 B underscore employees. And we're going to call that A. And we identify the 1816 changes as B. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. I'm really not. We've got the right tables. It may be, well, it's probably that I'm not sure why they wouldn't be updatable. I want to take a look here for just a minute at the A employees table, or the 1816B, and let's look at it for a minute. And we've got here's the problem, okay? If you look at the bottom page 711, you're going to see he asks us to update the section 1816B underscored employees table. Now, we're going to call that table E. And then we set a manager, A.manager ID, and we're to run a subquery from 1816 changes underscore 1816 underscore changes, which is B, which is this table. And this is good for us to see a little bit of troubleshooting. And we've got the new manager. Oh, we got the employee ID. I do get the changes, and I do get the row, but I'm not getting everything else. And that's the odd thing about this. We're not getting the results set table we should get on 712. And I'm just going to get rid of this again. And I want to go through this cycle once more. And we're going to click create, and we're going to do a query design. And we're going to run it. Now it gives us that operation must use an updatable query. And let's do this for a moment, just a second. Take a look at your book. We're going to do a little troubleshooting here, see if we can figure this out. And this is good for you just to kind of have do a little bit of a problem solving situation. But we're going to look at the employees. We're going to update the table 1816B underscore employees. And he has these tables together. Which is strange. But we have, let's look at this. We have 1816 underscore B employees table. We have that. Here it is right here. And let's look at the fields there. Let's see if we have something for a new manager. I'll close that off. And so that's the problem. This 1816 underscore, this 1816B underscore employees. Let's look at it. It does not have a field for a new manager. So it can't be updated. So the author threw us a curveball, but that's okay. We've worked through that. And that's okay. Now we can get a result set off of 1816, and essentially it will be correct. But without everything else there, we're not getting all the data. So it's another one of those times the authors kind of led us down the primrose path. Okay. And over on page 712, he walks us through finding the differences between a couple of tables. He shows us an oracle. And I don't know that if it's going to be worth it walking you through that. And what they're going to do is concatenate these tables, and that's from 1817 versus top of page 713, where they use the double bar. Access uses concatenation, and they've got a space there they create, which is a wildcard empty space. And then they use a not in condition, and they get them from 1817 second, and you get the result table at the bottom. The author walks us through using correlated subqueries. That's just simply a statement of equivalence. They match up, they correlate. At the bottom, he introduces us to a new function, and that's the exists. And let's take a look at that on 1820. And he's introducing us to a new function. Now we're saying where it exists, and this is dual code. So let's see what we get when we run it, because it can be a little glitchy. Here's the deal, okay? We're going to select the number underscore 2 from table A, the word underscore 2 from table A, and we identify table A as the twos table, and that's that from. Now we use the where exists, which means wherever we find this, and we select B dot number underscore 3 from the threes table, which we identify as B, where A dot number underscore 2 equals B dot underscore number 3. We run the subquery on the 3s and the 2s table. And then we order it by the number 2. And so we're just saying anywhere it exists, it says what it means what it says. And we'll click create. Query design. And there we are. That's our result table. You can see with the subquery, it gives us some flexibility. And however, when you look at the code, you may go, huh? Which is why, as the author said at the start of this chapter, that most people today don't use subqueries. They use outer joins, left join. They use one form of the outer join or the other. And part of that was to see the exists, to use that function. And that was, we're going to call this 1820. Okay. You'll notice here in chapter 18, we're doing a lot of, we're going from one extreme to the other as we run these queries. We're either generating a larger data set than we had originally, or we're taking two data sets, i.e. two tables, i.e. two subqueries, i.e. two queries, and we're extracting data, which is precisely this approach we've talked about in terms of leveraging the law of large numbers. Correlation lets you do that. And we use exists, as we did in that function there, to find where they match up. Now over here in 1821, we're going to write a subquery to do an outer join. And remember, an outer join is a pretty simple proposition. I'm going to get everything out of one table, and then I'm only going to get where whatever is in that table matches exactly with whatever is in another table. We have table A and table B. We're going to get all of table A, and then in addition, we're going to get wherever table A and B match up. That's an outer join. So we're going to start off, and we'll just walk through this. We're going to select two fields, the number 2 and the word 2 from table A, and then we're going to select a couple of fields out of table B, the number 3 and the word 3, and then we identify table A as the 2's table, and we identify table 3 as the B table. And then we use an equivalency statement where we say where A number underscore 2 equals B underscore 3. Then we have a union all. Remember, we talked about unions. When we run a union, we get an intersection. Pardon me, when we get a union, we combine two tables. I'm sorry. But with unions, I eliminate duplicate records. Okay? And sometimes I don't want to do that. In this case, we're going to use the union all function. All right, well, let's paste this in. Now we've got some other conditions there. We've used the subquery to create these multiple conditions that essentially filter the data even more till we've extracted what we want to get. And here we are, the result set. There in 17, they walk you through those bullet points. This select is an inner join. And they mention why we would use a union all. And they give us some other qualifiers there in terms of Oracle versus Access. Now, so this is going to be query 1821, or say it was 1821. The authors walk through using nested subqueries, queries used in local limited locations, subqueries can also be written as a join, and it gives you the key points about subqueries and the key takeaways, and really the key takeaways about the chapter. Okay. And he mentioned something here at the end. The most common use of a subquery is an update. And that's because we can create a condition. We can look for a condition and remedy it, i.e., we can update it by using table aliases with one or more of the aliases buried inside the subquery. Well, folks, that's going to do it pretty much for chapter 18. And chapter 19, there's really nothing there. It's good reading for you if you want to understand about multi-user environments and distributed computing and what that's all about. And I think it's, if you're that interested in it, please feel free to look through it. I'm simply not convinced that it's going to do you all that much good, because it really is the realm of a database administrator. What is important for you is over here in chapter 20. You'll note that I've said, okay, here's some check your understanding items. You're going to do this for a project. There'll be 9 of them. You can do those. Or as an alternative, you can use the Oracle. And that's over in Appendix A, page 751. You can get a free copy of it, look at it, and as long as you provide me documentation that you actually did work, download it and work with it, then that's you get that as alternative credit, not extra, but as alternative credit. And you may find that that's really what you want to do. And let me say this: if I was taking the class, I'd say I'm not going to write any more queries. I'm done with that. We've been doing this for weeks. I'm going to learn about Oracle. And if you have your own machine, you can download it, and they give you very explicit instructions. It's over on page 751, Appendix A. And the versions you should get, systems requirements, everything there. And then once you downloaded it, creating a new database and database user and letting you see what it looks like. Appendix B has a quick start with Oracle that would certainly, I think, be worthwhile if you've got it on your machine to do it and to use it. It would be just a way for you to say to a prospective employer, I've worked with both SQL. I've worked with SQL. I've worked with Access. I've worked with Oracle. Yeah. If you've taken an earlier courses with me, and even this one, I expose you to SAS, Visual Analytics. I think we do that in the management science course. And SAP, the major products that are out there. And Teradata University has those products. Now, this would be for Chapter 18. You may remember I had said, save it as like SQL Fund Chapter 18 Part 2. Okay? And so we've run through all of the queries. Now, and we've worked our way through them. I'm going to have some exercises for you to do out of the Sharda text. That's the text that covers business intelligence. And at the end of the course, you'll have some exams. And if I'm not mistaken, they're derived from the Sharda text. Well, I know that Part C is, Part D is, Part E, Part F, G, and H. So you'll get some really good familiarity, vocabulary work with business intelligence. Final exam, Part A, Part B. I'm going to go back over this next Thursday. Don't also forget about this extra credit, which you can earn. As I said, I'll go over the instructions and talk about them again. And I will be at the office. I'll be there available if you have questions or help. And I will be available in two ways. One, I will physically be there. And number two, I'll have, I'll be there physically. And if you have a question or problem, you are going to be quite welcome to contact me via email. I may or may, I probably will not run a screencast. I've toyed with the idea, but I only have one machine. And so trying to be there to ask questions and and do screen share is not going to be, is just simply not going to be very very practical to try. Okay. But I will be in the office if you have questions, so I can always try to help out. Now, starting next week and up to finals, as I said, I'll be in the office. I will go over at 6 o'clock over to the lab. If people are there and they have some questions, I'll try to help out. I'll try to clarify some things in terms of lessons or things of that nature. I would not underestimate the challenges you have ahead of you. And let me walk you through them, okay? This is why I front-loaded all of these access cases. Last night was the 4th of April. Next week will be the 11th of April. Okay? I'm going to run you through what's going on. You have a couple of assignments. I'll talk about some of these resources, but that'll be it. And I'll go ahead and speak about these instructions, and you have the check your understanding, or you can do the alternative with the Oracle assignment. SAS Visual Analytics. This is, I'm going to have you go into Teradata University and use that software. And I have a specific set of tasks I'm going to ask you to do. You have an opportunity for extra credit by doing some check your understanding items. Then you've got the Sharda exercises. And then on the 25th, there's no class. You have flex time, and I will be there because at that point you should be still working on the check your understandings or the Oracle, okay, as well as the extra credit and then the SAS project. So I will be there. So if you have questions, this is the time for you to come to the classroom physically and ask questions, or come over to my office. I'll be there usually from 6 till about 8 o'clock. And then, of course, you have the final exam, which has parts A and B. And those are due at the start of the final exam period. And then you have quizzes over the business intelligence text. And you have 2 hours to get those done. So you've got a lot on your plate. Okay, well, I'm going to call an end to this, and I'll post this over in the announcements section. And I do want to say this: I appreciate that a lot of this has been a tall drink of water. At times it can seem tedious because the understanding kicks in. Okay. We've been working with some examples, admittedly, that are fairly simplistic, but the whole point was to let you get familiar with SQL and also to get you familiar with the data warehouse concept and the data mart concept and understand about transactional tables, i.e. product tables, dimension tables, etc., so that you have a good understanding of a database and how it's put together. And you'll have enough of knowledge to go out and when you go to work and talk to somebody over in IT on an intelligent basis about what you're doing. All right, my friends, thank you so much. And I'll stop the share and I'll save this recording.